So hey guys, thanks for coming out to NetBase Live. Remember to post hashtag NetBase Live. You can follow Ayesha at Ayesha Curry.
Yeah, it's just my name.
Yeah, that's easy to remember.
Yeah,
we
it's
like
apparently
that.
the way to do it these days. So.
And she's kind of a big deal. That's why we're having her. And I think really for you guys, you know, she kind of represents for a lot of marketers that your target audience. You're actually a millennial, right?
I am. I think I fall into that category.
Yeah, and you've really mastered social, which I think is pretty hard to do, and we're all kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and you also love to cook.
I do. I love it.
So tell us, like, when you realized you love to cook, and take us on that journey.
So I actually realized it at a very young age. I've been cooking since I was 12 years old.
Wow.
I grew up in a pretty big family. There was 5 kids in the house, and so I was right smack dab in the middle. Everybody kind of had their niche.
Nice.
And mine was cooking. It just happened to be cooking. And so my way of kind of helping out around the house would be to prepare meals for my family. Both my parents worked full-time jobs, and so it was my way of helping out. And it just so happened to be delicious to them, and they enjoyed it. And so I carried that with me into my adulthood.
Nice.
It's one of those things where I wish somebody would have told me early on, you can make a career out of this.
Right.
But it's all turned out fine, and I'm just happy that I'm able to share it with everybody now.
Wow. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard when you think about, and I commend you for this, because like a lot of times people start their career and then they have kids and they can
Yeah.
kind of pick it up. But you had
Yeah.
kids before, and I think that can be very hard, that you've really kind of blossomed and grown your brand while also being a mom, which is really kind of hard, I think.
Yeah, it's been a little tedious and hard to like navigate through developing a career while being a mom. I started my career about 6 months after I had my first daughter.
Wow.
I started really diving in and knew what avenue I wanted to take and how I wanted to do it. And so that was hard. There were times when I wanted to give up, but I kind of just pressed through. And obviously, as you know, you have a 16-month-old, and
Yeah.
so it's still hard. But
Yeah.
but it's there's a nice balance now. I'm happy that we did it the way we did it.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it makes people like you even more because they know that you're out there doing that too. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
being a mom is hard. That in itself is a full-time job, and you're also on social, and you're building this culinary empire, which is it's just very impressive. So let's talk a little bit more about how you've used social to amplify your brand, because I mean you're all over the place. I mean, gosh, like 4+ million followers on Instagram, and you've got your YouTube channel, which is amazing, and now of course that's led to even the Food Network show. So can we kind of talk about like when you first started getting into social and how you've kind of used that to build your brand?
Sure. I actually, both my husband and I and some of our friends joined. The first platform we joined was Twitter.
Okay.
Way back in 2008, and we didn't know it was going to be this thing. We just thought it was a cool way to voice your opinions, and like I'm sure if you go way back, you see like the most ridiculous things. And a couple of years later, it got to the point where we realized, oh, you can have a voice on here, and people can actually take into account what you think, say, and what you stand for. And so we were like, oh, we can use this as an amazing platform to be able to voice what we're passionate about, and also use it as a platform for all of our charitable aspects, and so it's great for that. And then shortly after that, you know, Instagram came about, and so we're obviously very big on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's so many different platforms out there, and it's just such a great tool to use to get your message out there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think what's great about social is it gives everyone a voice.
Yeah,
you know,
it
like
does, no matter who
citizen
you are.
journalism, everyone can be there capturing the moment.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of sticky in that sometimes the beauty of social is that you are in the moment, but then
Yeah.
sometimes if you're too in the moment, it can almost turn back on you,
Yeah,
right?
for
Like I
sure.
know a lot of what we do at NetBase is around crisis management and making sure those things, you know, that you wish hadn't happened don't turn into a bigger deal.
Right, yeah.
So how have you taken any kind of something that maybe you wish you hadn't tweeted, or like how have you kind of turned that around and made it a positive thing, or kind of gotten back on top of it?
So for me, I feel like, especially with the sports world, like the fans are very passionate.
Yeah.
And so anything you say is amplified times a million. And so for me, it's been a learning process. And, you know, Twitter for so long was a way for me to both connect with family and friends, and then it turned into a platform I used for business, and it was hard to decipher those lines and what to say and what not to say. And it took a long time for me to realize that people become very trusting of you, and they hold on to every word, and like cynicism doesn't come across very well on there, and sarcasm doesn't come across very well on there, and so people are very literal, and so it I think for me that was the learning curve. Like everything that you're putting out and saying, people will take it very literally, and so you have to just kind of edit yourself in a way, and make sure that you're those 140 characters, is it, that you're putting out, you mean exactly what you say.
Yeah. And it's hard because you are being in the moment.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I've thought about things, I'm like, oh, maybe I need an app on my phone that can tell if I've been drinking, because I definitely don't need to post that, right?
Exactly,
So there's definitely things I'm like, maybe I shouldn't,
Right.
but, and you know what, I think when you're a celebrity and you have that many followers, you get detractors. Like I saw something where like someone was making fake videos, and it's like, who has time to do that, you know? And
it's so
just
strange.
It's just, there's so much negativity, right? And so how do you not let that be a distraction?
I think for me, I mean, like we said at the beginning, everybody has a voice and anybody can get on there. And so I think it's deciphering, like figuring out how to navigate your way through the noise. And just really focusing on whatever it is that your platform is, and like letting the rest just be. That's been the biggest thing for me. I kind of focus on the work, and put the work out there, and talk about all of the causes that I have going on, and like let the rest is just that, it's noise. And so I kind of just let that be. But it is quite strange, the things that people choose.
I mean, it's really odd.
It's really odd.
I've even seen like with the Pioneer Woman, someone made like a fake blog making fun of her, and it's like, who even has time to go there? But I think
So
when
strange.
you're in a level of celebrity, people just like haters want to hate, right?
Yeah, I guess they say like if there is, I mean, if there is no negative backlash, like you're not doing something right?
Right.
Like you're obviously doing something right if there are people questioning like how you're going about things.
We know there are a lot of crazy people out there anyway.
That too.
And a lot of them live in South Florida where I live, so just add that. So, and so let's just talk a little bit about, like, let's say, you know, your show just came out, right? And you've got so many projects going on. You've got the show, you've got the restaurant, the pop-up restaurant, you've got the book. So when you go out on your networks, are you organized? And this is I'm asking from a disorganized person's view. Are you like, I need to do a post on all my networks today about this, or is it more organic? Like, have you had a strategy to get the word out, you know, and to grow these entities that you're building?
Yes. So up until a couple of months ago, everything was very organic. I kind of just like let things happen as they were happening. There wasn't any strategy in place, but now because of the show and with the book coming out, I had to put in place some sort of organization and strategy. And so the one thing I want to talk about is Slice, because that's helped me a lot. My husband and his business partner Bryant created this amazing app called Slice, and
Very cool.
It integrates all social platforms into one hub, and it allows for brands to be able to come directly to me with like all of my approved content in an organized manner with the times that I need to do it, and so I'm able to like seamlessly blast things out, and it's helped so much.
That's awesome.
And so I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but that's been a great tool for me.
Slice.
To use, yes.
And it's a mobile app.
It's a mobile app, yeah.
Because like I know we were talking, that can help cut through all the email, right? Because you know, like, okay, here's the approved content. I think like when you're working with a brand, right?
Yes.
You might have their agency, and then they have one agency that does social, and they have another agency that does video, and like you've got all this stuff coming to you, so it helps you keep organized.
Absolutely, yeah, because on a daily basis, when I'm posting my own things that are just happening in life and I feel like sharing with people, that's fine, I do that on my own. But when it comes to working with brands, and companies and these people that are kind of relying on you to put their message out in a clear and concise way. I think it's important not to have like blurred lines of communication.
Yeah.
And so it's been so seamless for me to be able to use that to make sure that everything's just right.
Yeah, and then you've done it, it's approved. There's no like, oops, that wasn't the final edit,
Exactly.
or we forgot to put the hashtag in, or whatever that might be. So a lot of what marketers use our platform for is identifying who those influencers are, right? Like, for whatever their brand is, who would be a good fit. So when people come to you with the idea of maybe working with you as a brand, how do you identify if it's a good fit for your brand, and how do you like to work together? What would be like a win-win for you and them?
I think for me, in the beginning of it all, when this started many years ago, I was so excited about the opportunities that I would just say yes. Like if I cared for it in any way, I just said yes. And then what begins to happen is you dilute your brand. And like for me, my brand is myself at this point. And so going forward, I've just been making sure that everything makes sense and that whatever I'm doing resonates with me and really serves a purpose. And so that's been big for me because, again, you have these people that trust you. And so you want to make sure that whatever you're putting out is the best product possible. You're sending out the best message possible so that ultimately whatever you're doing stays true to yourself. There's no confusion as to, well, why is she talking about this right now? This just doesn't make any sense. She really uses this. And so for me, I make sure that everything I do just serves an actual purpose on the big picture of things, in the grand scheme of things, of what my goals are for the next 5 years, of the message that I want to put out there. And one thing that I've taken to account lately is with the brands I work with, I really love when something, one, benefits me, but also benefits the community. And so I feel like when something has that charitable aspect to it, to where I can give back, that's huge for me. And so that's really enticing from an influencer standpoint. Is I really love when something comes in and it has that charitable aspect.
Right, like you did I think something with Gladware.
Yeah, I'm working with Glad right now, and it's just been an incredible partnership because I've used Glad for as long as I can remember. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And then the fact that I was able to give back to the community with the platform I was already working with through No Kid Hungry was perfect. It's
like a win-win.
Yeah, it's like a dream collaboration.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're so right about you are your brand, right? So if you weren't true to your brand, I mean, your followers are going to see that, right? It's a trust relationship. If you're pushing something that you don't believe is a good product, that's not good for anyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. I'm going to have to check out. Tell us a little bit more about No Kid Hungry and the charitable work you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So No Kid Hungry is an incredible effort to end child hunger here in the United States. There's a study, they did a study, and it's 1 in 5 children, out of every 5 children in schools, they're going to school hungry. And so that's the statistic right here in our backyards. And so for me, especially as a mom, that was devastating. And so I started putting my hand into it long before they even knew anything about me. And then they saw that I was, donating small proceeds from my oil that I was selling on my blog, and they said there are much bigger, better ways that you can help just simply by using your voice. And so I've been working very closely with them just to spread the word and put the word out there, and ultimately that helps bring in much more for the kids than the proceeds from my oil. I'm still doing that, but it's been really nice to be able to use my voice to send that message out. And so what they do is it's all built around school breakfasts and school lunches. And so, in school, there's stigmas and things like that with the kids who go to school early to have breakfast. Some kids tend to get embarrassed. Some parents cannot get their kids there ahead of time for school in order to get that free breakfast. And so No Kid Hungry is having school systems implement the breakfast program or the lunch program into their first period. And so everybody, regardless of where you come from, is in class enjoying a meal together. And so nobody knows who came to school hungry that day. All anybody knows is that they're getting to talk, communicate with each other, and enjoy a meal. And ultimately, that's leading to higher test scores, higher graduation rates, and just an overall brighter future. And so it's a really, really, really great, great cause.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine trying to learn on an empty stomach.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
That's really sad. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And you were talking about your blog and your olive oil, and I mean, clearly you have an entrepreneurial mind. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, so, I mean, you've been in social for a long time. You started on Twitter, you had a blog, then you started selling olive oil.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got your hands in a lot of different pots. Can we talk about like maybe where you came from doing that, and then maybe where you see your career going in different directions? Because I heard maybe you have like a food delivery service, and obviously you have a restaurant that I can't wait to try.
Yes.
International Smoke, and some of you guys know me, I have a blog about grilling, and I'm like really obsessed with barbecue and anything grilling, so I really can't wait to go to your restaurant. So,
Thank you.
But tell us about like where you know, all these different things you're doing, and you know, it's like you've got a business, you've got like 5, 6, 7 businesses you're running at once. Really, you are building a culinary empire.
Yeah, so I either have like an entrepreneurial mind or I have a crazy mind. I'm not sure which yet.
I like it. I like
but
a little crazy is good.
You got to be a little crazy, right?
Totally.
But I think I'm a creature of passion, and so when I feel passionate about something, I have to do it, and you can't tell me no. And so, lucky for me, everything's just kind of made sense because my passion stems from my family and it stems from food.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are two things that are kind of being lost, especially with my generation. Like just sitting around the table, gathering together and enjoying a meal is just something that is not happening. Cooking with your kids, it's something that's being lost. And so I took it upon myself to make it my mission to bring that back and hope that it would inspire even one person to maybe encourage their family to sit down together and enjoy a meal or cook together. Or I feel like it opens lines of communication, and growing up for me, that's where I built the best relationships I have today. And so I just wanted to send across that message. And so with the show, I'm able to do that and send across that message of family and easy, approachable cooking, as well as with the book.
Yeah.
And then now with the meal kit delivery service, I just want to, there's so many of them out there, but I feel like the way that we're going to set ourselves apart from the other guys is by making it family focused. And so I want to make sure that there's baby food for the moms on the go who don't have the time, but will use local, fresh, organic ingredients and make sure that the baby's getting fed as well as everybody else. Toddler meals.
Yeah.
And what I want to do is, I feel like kids' palates are so limited these days. So I want to figure out ways to make it so that whatever the parents are eating, the kids are eating as well, but we make it fun and we make it delicious. And so I feel like that's the way we're going to differentiate ourselves from everything else out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really
excited. I would use
excited.
that for sure.
Yes, I will send you one when
I would love that.
when we launch.
I'm trying to make sure my son's not that kid that only eats chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, you know, and then he gets exposed to everything. And I don't want to have to make a separate meal for him every time I make dinner for myself and my husband.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes that happens, right? It's all about balance. I mean, you pick and choose your battles. But I feel like there are ways to make chicken tenders and mac and cheese a little bit healthier and more approachable and sneak that nutrition in there.
Exactly.
So that they don't know they're getting it, but they are.
Well, and then like that's a great example of the recipe in your cookbook where you make chicken tenders, but they're flaxseed and
it's just flaxseed, salt, and pepper.
Yeah,
and
which is
it.
And your kids probably don't even know it's like really good for them.
They don't know the difference. They're still crispy. They're baked off in the oven, and they can't tell. And it also helps, like a lot of kids. This is TMI. But a lot of kids, like with the whole bathroom situation. So it helps with that. It's just like great for their
Flax is
their
great
system.
for everything.
Yeah.
Well, and
So
if you have kids,
win-win.
you talk about poop on a daily basis, so it's okay.
Normal.
And I really do love your cookbook, and that I do find it's very approachable. Because like we were saying back there, is that you know, a lot of times you buy a cookbook and there's like 20 ingredients. It's like, I don't even have time to go buy 20 ingredients, more or less cook with that many ingredients.
Yeah.
You know, so I love the fact that, everything's very approachable, but it's also very unique, right? Like, your background is very unique too.
We were talking about this back there. Like, I have a pretty diverse background. My mom's Jamaican and Chinese. My dad's Polish, African American. I was born in Toronto, lived there until I was 14, then got transplanted to the South, to North Carolina, and now we're out here in the Bay. So there's been a lot of influence in the way that I cook. But I think what that's helped with is simplifying everything. And I feel like, but still not compromising that like flavor. And so for me with the book, I just wanted to make sure, I feel like millennials and everybody thereafter, like nobody has time anymore to sit there and have hours to prepare a meal. And so I tried to make everything as simple as possible, and so that there was no guesswork involved, and using ingredients that people would have in their pantry every day. And I feel like I did that. So yeah,
it's an awesome book in that I think they're family friendly, but they're unique. It's not just run of the mill type stuff. I love the Jamaican influence.
Some of it is because it's things that people wouldn't think on a daily basis to make, and so I wanted to put it in there because it's easy peasy and so obvious when you look at it, but you just wouldn't have thought of it on your own.
Well, like even like little touches, like your chocolate chip cookies, for example, and you say, at the end you can add a little sea salt, which most people don't realize when you add sea salt to something sweet, it actually accentuates the sweetness and just makes it that much better. Little touches like that, I think, are really what's help make your book not only approachable, but like just a little touch of something that makes it special. Like
absolutely.
when you make those dishes for other people, it's just something unique. So where do you see your cooking going? Is there something that's really kind of like, you've got international smoke going, right? And that's sounds like a really creative menu.
Yes.
Like what's your jam right now?
So my jam right now is definitely international smoke. I've been in the restaurant business for 6 months now, getting my feet wet with the pop-up, and it's been the most incredible experience. It's so obviously different from home cooking, and I've been learning. Michael Mina, who's huge here, was so nice to take me under his wing and mentor me and sort of teach me everything I need to know. And so it's just been an incredible experience, especially for me from the business side of things, just learning how it all works. And so now I have the experience over the past 6 months doing the pop-up. We're ready to push it out now and make it an actual thing. And so that's been super exciting for me. We just announced our first walkthrough experience that we're putting up in Hawaii, and that'll open up in the spring. And so I'm so excited for that. And so that's kind of where all of my focus is going to right now from a business standpoint, and the meal kit delivery service. So at this point, it's kind of, I have a lot on my plate. And so at this point, it's making sure that everything that I'm putting out there is perfect and flawless and seamless. So it's really honing in on everything that I have already and making sure that it's easy for everybody else and makes sense.
What did you learn being a home cook going into the restaurant business? Because it goes from something that, you're very creative and now you have to learn how to do these things at scale, and then think about things like costs and,
it's crazy.
Production.
I think what I learned is that they are two totally different things. It's like ballet and basketball. It's like, it's not the same at all. It's, and so for me, just learning that business side was so different for me. But I think what I was able to bring to the restaurant business that's really special is that passion, and the passion, we serve everything family style. And so I try and keep that feeling of love in the food and in the way that it's presented, and in the way that the vibe is in the restaurant. And so I think that's been something special. And just, I think for everybody working with me, with Mina Group and International Smoke, I think it's just been, I brought maybe a sense of like freshness, because I mean, I didn't go to culinary school. And so I think I've just brought a freshness to them. And I think I've gotten everybody excited because I do have this deep passion for food and everything that I'm doing. And so I think just a new sense of excitement.
Well, I think and this is something I struggle with too. Like I'm doing like my first catering gig, which is like,
Wow.
oh my God, and taking recipes that I wrote for 8 people and, doing it, turning them into something for 150 people is a very different thing. What was the point of my story? But it's just, like you said, you have the passion, and I think you don't have to have that culinary school degree or whatever to be a good chef, and I think it takes a while to learn that, because sometimes people beat themselves up about it, but I think it's something that you have in your heart,
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's a lot of people that go off to culinary school that haven't had a passion for food before, and it's just a job. And for me, it's not just a job. It's like I'm truly, my heart's in it, and so I feel like that shows.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so a lot of, you talk about your faith in the book, and I know you and Steph met at
We did. So we
church.
actually went to the same church, oddly enough, in North Carolina. Like, how strange is that?
I know, it's very cool. It's a small world.
It's such a small world.
And and you went to youth group at Central Church of God.
Yeah.
And I know, like, your faith in God has been like a really big deal as you've, with your family. And don't you guys have tattoos that say something?
We do. We have tattoo. We both have the same tattoo, my husband and I, and it says, "Love never failed to be," and it's a verse. It's one of our favorite verses from the Bible. It's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 8, and so it's just a reminder that it's like, especially in today's world, it's just a reminder that like love is real, and it's a real thing, and you can't let anybody tell you any differently. So
and I think
now we're getting all sappy, and this is like not what anybody's here for. Sorry.
Well, do we want to take some questions from the crowd? And I think we have some mic. The mic, you guys can pass the mic around.
Hi.
Hi there. I'm a huge fan, so I just wanted to let you know. And one of the things I absolutely love about you is I think you have tremendous passion. And it comes through in a lot of things that you do. I follow you on Instagram, I follow you on Twitter, etc. But you caught a lot of heat last year.
For sure. Yeah.
During the playoffs. And I personally didn't mind it. I thought it needed to be said. But now that you have partnerships with KP, you're building your empire, how do you think that's influencing kind of your authentic voice? And how are you kind of managing that? You said earlier that there's a filter now, or you have to think twice before you say something. But I'm gonna miss that part of you if you don't do that, right? So.
Well, I don't think that part will go away. I think it's just like how I say things maybe have to change. And honestly, like that, when that happened, like it was like a moment of passion. It was like real, and I think people thought I meant something different than I actually did. And that was just a matter of me not being concise about what I was trying to say because I was so passionate. But for me, when all of that happened, it was very frustrating because I'd been working my butt off, and it sort of overshadowed all the hard work. And so that was very tough for me and frustrating. And ultimately, I was just worried about the businesses and the brands that I worked with so closely for quite some time. I didn't want that to overshadow who I was and how hard I was working. And luckily it didn't. I don't think anybody thought twice about it. But it's crazy how pessimistic people can be, because it's still something that I have to deal with on a daily basis via social media, especially now that the season started back up. So it's like, it died down, and now it's something all over again that's like roaring up. And so it's sort of like a brush fire. You try and blow it out, and it just comes back bigger and stronger. And so it's funny, but I feel like the people that matter and the brands that I work with know the difference. And so everybody can kind of see over all of the noise and get down to the business and the real stuff that matters. But I think I've been transparent through the whole thing, and I'll continue to be transparent. I feel like that's really the key to social. Is like, I think a lot of people try and create this image and create this bubble, and they put themselves inside of it, and I feel like people can see right through that. And so for me, it's been very important to me to remain transparent and remain true to myself, because ultimately, again, like, my brand is myself, and like, I don't want to be anything but me. And so that's been very important to me to make sure that I keep that going.
Yeah, I thought you handled it well.
Thank you.
Good job, girl.
Thanks.
Hi. So
Hi.
a lot of brands have figured out how to tap into the women's conversation and LGBT, but you don't see a lot of brands tapping into racial issues.
Yeah.
And, so I would just love, as someone who's mixed, what your recommendation would be to brands who want to have a positive, empowered voice for Black Lives Matter or different things going on from a racial perspective.
So for me, I feel like it's such a personal thing. I think you leave it up to, like, myself. So I don't necessarily know. I feel like if a brand wants to take a stand, that's fine. I don't think anybody should be pressured into making a statement, because I feel like that can be manipulated in so many different ways. And so for me, I didn't jump on the train and like I feel like a lot of people use race issues as a platform for themselves to be noticed, and like I just think that's not the way to go about it. I think figuring out exactly what you want to say, and saying it that way, but not necessarily like doing something because everybody else is doing it. It's like figuring out the right way to do it so that you can send a strong message, a clear and concise message, and ultimately impact those people. So I think, like, depending on the brand, there's a way to go about sending out that message, right? Of unity and fairness, and just like ending racism on a whole. I feel like it's such a touchy, tricky subject, and like, how do you go about doing that? I have the way that I feel, and I speak on it. But how do we really all, especially with brands and influencers? I mean, I would love for one of the brands I work with to figure out a way with me to take a stand, but where do we even begin? And so I feel like that's something, even myself, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's something even myself I need to sit down and think about. How can I bring this to maybe a brand that I work with to try and end this thing, and just shed light on something that's very important to me as well, if that makes any sense at all.
Totally. More questions? Oh, we got someone over here.
So you're a really big deal, and your husband's a really big deal, but the member of your family that I think is the coolest is
boy.
Riley. She's so funny and such a crack up. I'm just wondering how you manage what you go public with your family,
Yeah.
and what's private.
That's been hard for me, especially over the past year and a half. When all of this stuff happened, I've shared our lives on social media and the things that make me happy for years, and nothing ever came of it. And then when that happened, it was this whole media firestorm, and it got crazy. And for me, from a parent standpoint, and especially as a mom, it was a little scary, because it's my children, and so I got very protective, and didn't really know how to navigate through all of the media. I mean, if you had seen the requests we got, like, it was just insane. And so for me as a mom, it was a little bit scary. And so I think now I'm just doing exactly what I've done the whole time. I figure when you put too much strategy into something like that, people notice that, and then it becomes a whole other thing. And so for us, we've kind of just taken it upon ourselves to be aware of the different things we're putting ourselves into, and sometimes involving our children, but ultimately just living our lives, in hopes that some of it dies down a little bit, and it has. And so we kind of pick and choose our battles when it comes to the kids. That's another tricky subject. It's hard with kids. Because I want her to remain a child and like not know. At this point, she doesn't know what's going on, and I want to keep it that way. And so that's been hard for me. And so I try and just remain as normal as possible. And then if she gets older one day and says like, I want to do this, then that's fine. But right now she's just, we keep her a kid, and the things I post are that of like any other mom on social media.
We've got time for like maybe 2 more questions. 2 more questions? Bueller? Well, we don't have any more questions. I wanted to ask you, I mean, who do you look up to in social?
Yeah, so for me, from a branding standpoint, I really love Tory Burch. I love it. And so she's somebody that I look up to. And then I love what Jessica Alba did with The Honest Company and kind of her brand on social, and how she took herself from, obviously she's still an actress, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just 2 totally separate worlds, and she's managed to really be respected as this amazing businesswoman with this huge empire.
Yeah.
And so I really admire her and look up to her for that. And so those are 2 people
Yeah, and
that
it's
I
a great
just
product too.
fangirl over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are
Great
good-
product.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
use
I
with
love
both
Honest
my
Co.
kids. Yeah, and so I really look up to the way that she was able to, and just that e-commerce and
Yeah, which is, it's hard to learn, and you know, like I don't have a business background in it. Like even just with my blog, that stuff's hard to do. It's like,
Yeah.
so I respect anyone who can figure that stuff out.
yeah, their messaging is amazing.
Yeah, it's, so where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where, I mean, you've got a lot of irons in the fire already.
Yeah. So in 5 years, I hope to see International Smoke doing great. I hope, I can't really say anything now, but if it was up to me, I'd hope that we'd have several locations and have them up and running perfectly. And just continuing to make food fun and approachable
Yeah.
for me, because that's obviously what my messaging is like it should be fun, it should be fast, it should be easy, but you shouldn't have to compromise the quality of anything.
Yeah.
And so with the meal kit delivery service, I hope that just takes over that industry by storm. I want to grab that #1 spot in that industry, and so that's going to be what I'm putting all of my effort into. And so I just hope that that's as big and successful and robust as it possibly can be.
And I think mealtime as a family has definitely gone away. So if you can help bring
Yeah.
that back, that's awesome. I mean, I see my sister-in-law, and she has 4 kids, and each kid eats dinner at a different
Yeah.
time. So I think that's something that people can appreciate, just to have one meal together.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be every day, right? It's all about balance. So it's even if it's a lunch in the middle of the week, like just making sure that you have that sense of togetherness. I feel like it's so important to instill that in your kids from a young age.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Then they can carry it on to their family.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any other questions from you guys? No? Thank you so much for coming out. It was really a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, and thank you guys.